Continuing on with looking at the discriminant, we are going to be asked to state the nature and the type of solutions for the equation of 4x squared minus 7 is equal to 0. I'm not asked for the solutions. I'm asked what are the nature of solutions. So secretly, I believe that these are the solutions to this equation. But don't tell anybody. It's not part of the lesson. Just ask to see what the type and nature are. We can take a look at the discriminant. Here's my equation. 4x squared minus 7 is equal to 0. I can take my values of a, b, and c and write them down. I plug them into the value of the discriminant, and the value of my discriminant after I calculate it ends up being 112. Since it is positive, this tells me that there's going to be two solutions. Since it's not a perfect square, this tells me that it's not factorable. So the only way to solve this is by completing the square or by the quadratic formula. Like, how does knowing the value of the discriminant help you solve the equation? Well, simply it'll just say, please don't factor. So you won't end up with an impossible scenario that you're trying to see through. So the next part is we're just going to state the number or the number of type of solutions of the following equation. And then we're going to identify possible ways to solve. So if you want, press here. I do find this fairly straightforward. So if you want, press pause. I'm not asking you to solve. I'm just asking you to find essentially the nature of the solutions, which is a question about discriminant. And then we're going to solve these, not even solve, we're going to identify ways of solving the equation. So just beside every question, I have identified ways of solving equations that may or may not be true for these questions. If you want, press pause and calculate the discriminant of each of these. Very shortly, I'm going to reveal the value of the discriminant. All right, here it goes. The values of the discriminant are, so in my first equation, I take my values of a, b, c, and I plug it into the discriminant. Remember that the discriminant is going to be b squared minus 4ac. The value of my discriminant was 57. So that tells me, since 57 is positive, I'm going to have two solutions. Is 57 a perfect square? No. So you can't factor it. So the solutions are going to be irrational. So I have two irrational solutions. For this one question, I thought I could factor it. I thought I could complete the square quadratic formula. Well, factoring is off the table. So there's only really two ways that I could solve this equation. Let's go on to this next one. X squared minus 4 is equal to 0. Now, you're probably able to solve this in your head very quickly. It's a difference of squares. It has solutions to a -2, but that's not the question that we're being asked. What are the type, or what is the value of the discriminant we need to calculate? The value of the discriminant was 16. So since it's positive, we have two solutions. Since it's a perfect square, we're going to have two rational solutions. So since the solutions are rational, we could factor, we could complete the square, and we could use the quadratic formula. next equation. I calculated the value of my discriminant was 25. So pretend I run into this equation in a dark alley. How am I going to defeat it? Well, I take a look at the discriminant and I'm like, well, that's a perfect square. I know that it has two solutions. And those two solutions are rational. And whenever we have rational solutions, I could factor, complete the square, or I could use the quadratic formula. Moving on to the fourth example here. The discriminant is negative 16. Ooh. Wait a second. So negative b over 2a plus or minus the square root of my discriminant is negative 16. By the way, if you want, you can just plug in your discriminant and use the quadratic formula underneath b side. Wait a second. You can't take the square root of a negative number. So this one has no solution, just like the table informs us. So how are we going to solve this equation? Well, we are not going to solve it at all because it's unsolvable. There's just simply no solutions. So this is a nice outcome for us. Next one again. Second last equation, we're almost there. Negative 2x squared plus 5x minus 10 is equal to 0. The value of my discriminant, I calculated it to be negative 55. Well, again, this has no solutions. No real solutions, we can call them. So we're not even going to try to factor this. We're not going to try to solve it at all. However, this next one, x squared minus 8x plus 16 is equal to 0. When you calculate your value of your discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, we see that the value of our discriminant is equal to 0. So we have one solution. One solution. And that solution is rational. You may be asking, why is that so? Well, hold on. Rational solution means I could factor, could complete the square, or use the quadratic formula. The solution will be negative b over 2a if I use the quadratic formula, plus or minus the value of my discriminant is 0 over 2a. So negative b over 2a. Now remember, this is 0. So you only have one solution, and that's negative b over 2a plus or minus 0, which just ends up Anyways, that's the discriminant. I wish I could show this at the beginning of the unit because it's sort of a nice way to wrap up quadratic equations. There's different ways to solve quadratic equations. Can you use them all the time? Maybe is the answer. And you have to look at the discriminant to make that determination.